Circle 8.
Circle 8.
Circle 8.
Welcome to Circle 8.
Examples of logotherapy processing. To identify what is part of the past with what anyone still remembers would be a subjectivist misinterpretation of our ontology of time. This ontology, far from being an ivory tower affair and a high level of abstraction, can be brought home even to the man in the street if we take a Socratic approach. This happened when I, Frankl said, interviewed a patient of mine in class. She had expressed her concern with the transitoriness of life. Sooner or later it will be over, she said, and nothing will be left. I cannot persuade her that life's transitoriness in no way detracts from its meaningfulness. So I pushed forward by asking her, have you ever met a man whose achievement you have great respect? Certainly, she answered. Our family doctor was a unique person. How he cared for his patients, how he lived for them. He died? I inquired. Yes, she answered. But his life was commendatory, she said. But didn't this meaningfulness end at the moment of his life was finished? I asked her. In no way, she answered. Nothing can alter the fact that his life was meaningful. But I continued to challenge her. And what if not a single patient appreciates what he owes to your family doctor? Or when one day the last of his patients has died? It remains. For another illustration, let me cite a tape-recorded interview I, Frankl said, had with another patient of mine. She was suffering from a terminal cancer, and she knew that she was dying. When I demonstrated the case in class, the following dialogue developed. Frankl, what do you think of when you look back on your life? Has life been worth living? Patient, well, doctor, I must say that I had a good life. Life was nice indeed, and I must thank the Lord for what it held for me. I went to theaters, I attended concerts, and so forth. You see, doctor, I went there with a family and whose house I served for many decades as a maid in Prague, at first and afterward in Vienna. And for the grace of all of these wonderful experiences, I am grateful to the Lord. I nevertheless felt that she was also doubtful about the ultimate meaning of her life, and I wanted to steer her through her doubts. So I had her question the meaning of her life, on the conscious level rather than repressing her doubts. Frankl, you're speaking of some wonderful experiences, but all this will have an end now, won't it? Patient, thoughtfully, yes, everything ends. Frankl, what do you think now that all the wonderful things of your life might be annihilated? Patient, still more thoughtfully. All those wonderful things, Frankl. But tell me, do you think that anyone can undo the happiness that you have experienced? Can anyone blot it out? Patient, no, doctor. Nobody can blot it out. Frankl, can anyone blot out the goodness you have met in your life? Patient, becoming increasingly emotionally involved. Nobody can blot it out. Frankl, what have you achieved and accomplished? Patient, nobody can blot it out. Frankl, or what have you bravely and honestly suffered? Can anyone remove it from the world? Remove it from the past where you have stored it, as it were? Patient, now moved to tears. No one can remove it. It is true, I have had a great deal to suffer, but I also tried to be courageous and steadfast and enduring what I must. You see, doctor, I regard my suffering as a punishment. I believe in God, Frankl, trying to put himself in the place of the patient. But cannot suffering sometimes also be a challenge? Is it not conceivable that God wanted to see how Anastasia Kotek could bear it? And perhaps he had to admit, yes, she did so very bravely. And now tell me, can anyone remove such an achievement and accomplishment from the word? Frau Kotek, patient. Certainly, no one can do it. Frankl, this remains, doesn't it? Patient. It does. Frankl, What matters in life is to achieve something. And this is precisely what you have done. You have made the best of yourself. You have become an example for your patients because of the way you take the suffering upon yourself. I congratulate you for this achievement, and I also congratulate the other patients who have the opportunity to witness such an example. Ecce homo. The audience burst into spontaneous applause. This applause is for you, Frau Kotek. She is weeping now. It concerns your life, which has been a great achievement. You may be proud of it, Frau Kotek. And how few people may be proud of their life. I should say, your life is a monument, and no one can remove it from the world. Patient, regaining her self-control. What you have said, Professor Frankl, is a consolation. It comforts me indeed. I never had an opportunity to hear anything like this. Slowly and quietly, she leaves the lecture hall. A week later, she died. During the last week of her life, however, she was no longer depressed, but on the contrary, full of faith and pride. Prior to this, she had felt agonized, ridden by the anxiety that she was useless. Our interview had made her aware that her life was meaningful and that even her suffering was not in vain. Her last words were, "My life is a monument." Counseling suicidal persons. Some people believe that the only acceptable level of performance is perfection. When perfection is not reached, all efforts are believed to be failures. Social expectations contribute to a person's extreme maladjustive behavior. Assertions from family and society are interpreted by him as an external pressure or telling him that he should do and what his responsibilities are. The need to fit in with a group can be critical for some people. Should there be a pain or an isolation, no true friends, and a lag in social interaction, living life is perceived as a complete failure. Endless frustrations can result from knowing the demands of society by being powerless to do anything to meet them, thus leading to the feeling of intellectual despair. The problems that society creates them so huge a catastrophe that the only solutions to all is to end all, these including self. The problems that society creates seem so huge a catastrophe that the only solutions to all is to end all these, including self. Perfectionism, unrealistic family and societal expectations, lack of social skills, and intellectual impotence are some of the reasons which contribute to suicidal behavior. The incidence of suicide and suicidal attempts has increased markedly during the past decade. Well-known personalities in society and financially affluent persons who have been perceived by others as being immune from day-to-day problems, emotional upheavals, and depressions have committed suicide. The number of suicides is unknown partly because records don't seem to definitely pinpoint suicide as the cause of death. More often than not, and because most Filipinos profess the Christian faith, families or significant people in the life of the suicide victim refuse to admit that the incident is due to the victim's tragic decision to take his own life. The counselor who works with the suicidal persons should be able to view several aspects of the situation simultaneously. His perceptivity is important. His intuition and ability to understand layers upon layers of feelings and real thoughts hidden by social facades will help him in assessing the true situation that the suicidal person is in. The counselor makes a personality assessment of the suicidal person. There are life-threatening behaviors which he can detect. He casts away fear that the family or friends of the client will think that he is overreacting. if he informs them of the cues that he has assessed. The counselor confronts the suicidal person directly with reasons why he suspects him of an impending suicide attempt. An open and frank discussion of suicide seldom induces this onset. The counselor may say, "You seem to be somehow different. Is there something bothering you?" Or if the counselor and the suicidal person have known each other for some time, he may say directly, "Have you been thinking about killing yourself?" If the person acknowledges that he is considering suicide, the counselor does not overreact by giving him reminders like, "But your family loves you." The counselor at that point in time does not moralize, like, "Only God can take away the life he gave you," or, "But it is a sin to commit suicide." Instead, the counselor remains supportive of the suicidal client but negative of the suicidal attempt. These counseling strategies, if done by the counselor sequentially during the counseling session, will bring about better, far-reaching, and more satisfying results. Number 1, the counselor communicates to the suicidal person that he understands the situation. He cares. He is there to help him, and then emphatically tells him that he will prevent the suicide. As the counseling session progresses, the counselor makes the suicidal client realize that his problems can be solved by other means, not of suicide. A holistic construct of human dysfunction or illness, as inspired by Viktor Frankl's Logotherapy. A. Classification of dysfunction. Number 1, somatic dysfunction. Number 2, psychological dysfunction. Number 3, neurological dysfunction. B. Dynamics of the dysfunction. S-class. May or may not exist in the initial or succeeding phases, but destined to be present during the terminal phase of lifetime. Illness can be curable or controlled. P-class. Presumed to be consistently existing in all phases of lifetime, differing only in degree and quality. Curable in the context of making the person adaptive to day-to-day living. Curability, to a certain extent, could be viewed as relative. N-class. May or may not exist in any of the phases of lifetime. Cure may be total. Existential in nature, emptiness, despair, and loneliness. C. Interrelational framework. S can lead to P and N. P can lead to S and N will ultimately lead to S and P. 2 types of neurological. Number 1, exposed with S and P class symptoms. Number 2, suppressed without S and P classes symptoms. It can be acute, either S and P exist as symptoms. It can also be chronic, both S and P exist as symptoms. Let's take a look, special interrelational of somatic and neurological. Inasmuch as a somatic illness could lead to a neurological illness, the former could also be the catalyst for cure of the latter. Which would you prefer, to be bodily ill, but which makes you a better person, or to be bodily healthy, the consequence of which is your person deterioration? It is not difficult for most of us to understand through our experience in life that life per se, meaning being alive, especially if it is our own life, is precious and vulnerable. However, if one tries to look closer, there is something more precious than life as it is. Living, meaning how you live your life. Some roles of the logotherapy counselor. The counselor, according to Viktor Frankl, should be the client. According to Viktor Frankl, should help the client to, number 1, interpret whether his or her life task is being responsible to society, his conscience, or God. Number 2, become conscious of the whole spectrum of meaning and values and be reoriented towards the meaning of life. Number 3, find an aim or purpose in his or her existence by emphasizing the meaning of suffering and the meaning of work and meaning of love. Counselor skills and characteristics. Recognize that the relationship between two persons is more important than any technique. Number 2, balance human closeness and scientific detachment, neither guided by mere sympathy to help the client, nor repress his or her human interest in the other by dealing with him or her in terms of technique. Number 3, avoid imposing his or her philosophy upon the client. No transference or counter-transference of a personal philosophy and personal concept of values. Number 4, resist the temptation to be a teacher or a preacher or a preacher. Just help the client find his or her own meaning.